Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized you're not sure if you even like the person staring back? Not the hair, the face, or the body, but the life you've chosen, the habits you keep repeating, the way you treat yourself day after day. We often long for love, recognition, and respect from others, yet we forget that it all begins with the deepest relationship we will ever have, the one with ourselves. And if that bond is broken, no success, no love, no glory will ever fill the emptiness within. The Stoics believe that no freedom is greater than mastering your own mind, and no love is more enduring than the love you give yourself. You may land the dream job, enter a romantic relationship, or own the possessions that others admire. But if you do not know how to respect and uplift yourself, it will all vanish like dust in the wind. Instead of waiting for others to grant you worth, you can choose to build it from within. And that journey begins with a single question: how do you truly learn to love yourself? 1. Learn to speak kindly to yourself. The way we speak to ourselves is often overlooked, yet it holds the greatest power. With others, we find it easy to be gentle, patient, comforting, and encouraging. But when facing ourselves, many of us become the harshest judges, using words so cruel we would never dare say them to anyone else. A small mistake at work can become a heavy sentence in the mind. A simple failure can be twisted into proof of worthlessness. These repeated words gradually form a distorted image of self-worth, blinding us to our potential and leaving us with only flaws to see. The Stoics remind us that the mind is the one domain where we hold absolute control. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that the soul is dyed by the thoughts it carries. If those thoughts are filled with criticism, judgment, and doubt, the soul grows dark, closed, and fearful. But if we learn to nourish the mind with words of kindness, fairness, and compassion, the soul itself becomes clear, resilient, and unshaken in adversity. Words do not merely describe reality, they shape the way we experience it. A crucial step in learning to speak kindly to ourselves is realizing that thoughts do not always reflect truth. Often they are nothing more than immediate reactions born from fear or long-standing habits. When the voice in your head whispers, "I'm not good enough," it does not mean you are bound to that truth. It is only a passing thought, and you are free to respond differently. Instead of agreeing and punishing yourself, you can answer with calm. "I may not be skilled yet, but I can train and improve." This shift is not false optimism, but a rational adjustment that directs the mind toward growth rather than destruction. Speaking kindly to yourself also means granting forgiveness for mistakes. No one escapes failure, and mistakes are an essential part of learning. The Stoics viewed errors as exercises that refine wisdom and strengthen will, not as excuses for endless self-punishment. When a child learns to walk, we do not scold them for falling, we encourage them to rise again. So too with ourselves, we must show the same patience. Kindness does not mean denial of responsibility, but the courage to face shortcomings, extract the lesson, and continue with steady resolve. It is vital to recognize that the words you use with yourself form the very environment of your mind. If that environment is filled with judgment, your soul will struggle to grow strong. But if it is built on empathy, encouragement, and fairness, it becomes firm ground for flourishing. Speaking kindly to yourself is not just about changing language. It changes the way you feel, act, and live each day. From that foundation, every other relationship in your life becomes healthier and more enduring. 2. Keep promises to yourself. One of the deepest causes of lost confidence and self-respect is the habit of breaking promises to oneself. We easily keep promises to others out of fear of disappointing them, yet we permit ourselves to delay, to excuse, to betray our own word. When you say you will change but postpone, when you set a boundary but then break it, trust in yourself quietly erodes. It does not shatter all at once, but crumbles piece by piece with every abandoned commitment. The Stoics held that dignity comes not from words but from consistency between thought and action. Epictetus emphasized that self-discipline is not learned through theory alone but through repeated action, long enough that it becomes character. If we constantly betray our own promises, even before the world can judge us, deep inside we carry the sentence of self-betrayal. And no judgment breaks us faster than losing trust in ourselves. Keeping promises to yourself does not mean grand commitments from the start. It begins with the smallest things. If you say you will complete a task today, finish it. If you say you will protect your time, turn off what interrupts it. These small acts are the bricks that rebuild trust. Each time you succeed, the mind records that you are reliable, and confidence and strength take root. It is important to understand that keeping promises to yourself is not harsh coercion, but disciplined training. The Stoics distinguished clearly between slavery to desires and the willing obedience to reason. When we honor our word to ourselves, it is not external force binding us, it is the deliberate choice to live according to values set by reason. And where reason governs, true inner freedom is born. If we break too many promises, doubt takes root, and we stop believing in any goal or plan. But if we persevere in keeping even the smallest vows, we begin to rewrite our own story. That constancy builds inner strength, preparing us for greater trials. Eventually, we see that faith in ourselves is not something granted by others, but the fruit of each promise we have honored. From that faith, confidence, courage, and respect from others flow naturally. 3. Set boundaries without guilt. One reason people grow exhausted in both body and mind is their inability to set clear boundaries in life. Many grow up believing unconditional sacrifice is proof of goodness, that saying no is selfish, that refusing others means hurting them. Yet, this belief quietly turns us into traitors to ourselves, constantly yielding to please others while losing inner peace and dignity. Boundaries are not walls to divide people. They are lines that preserve balance. They are a silent declaration. I know where to stop to protect my mind, my time, and my energy. The Stoics stressed that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond. Setting boundaries is such a response, conscious, rational, and not ruled by fleeting emotion. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person has the power to keep their soul undisturbed by external forces, unless they themselves permit it. In setting boundaries, we exercise this very power, refusing to let unreasonable demands or intrusions shake our inner stability. Guilt often arises when we first begin to protect ourselves, because the mind is accustomed to valuing others' approval more than our own needs. But guilt is not proof that we are wrong. It is only a sign that an old habit is being broken. The Stoics believe that truth does not rest in passing emotions, but in the clarity of reason. And reason shows that limitless self-sacrifice does not create lasting happiness. It breeds resentment, fatigue, and the loss of self. Setting boundaries also means accepting that you cannot please everyone. If someone's affection or respect depends on your endless concessions, it was never genuine. A healthy relationship must stand on fairness, where each person respects the other's limits. When you dare to say enough, those who truly care will learn to value you more, and those who exploit will gradually fall away. The strength to maintain boundaries is as important as the courage to set them. A line drawn but often crossed soon loses meaning. Consistency is not rigidity, it is steadiness in protecting what is essential to your peace. When boundaries become principles of living, guilt dissolves, replaced by freedom and clarity. In the Stoic spirit, boundaries are not acts of exclusion, but of affirmation. They declare, "I respect myself enough not to allow anyone to wound my inner peace." And when a person learns to honor themselves to that degree, they grow not only stronger, but also more capable of forming genuine relationships, for they no longer give from emptiness, but from a soul full of strength and freedom. 4. Protect your energy through the art of saying no. In life, mental and physical energy is an invisible yet invaluable resource. It determines our ability to think clearly, to love sincerely, to work effectively, and to stand firm against trials. Yet many let this energy be drained meaninglessly simply because they do not know how to refuse. Every time we nod to an unnecessary demand, we trade away our time, focus, and peace. Gradually, these unconscious nods pile up into a burden that leaves us exhausted. Thus, learning to say no is not rejection of others, but affirmation of self-worth and protection of the most vital resource, the energy of life. The Stoics saw mental energy as an inner fortress. Marcus Aurelius likened the soul to a citadel, into which only what we permit can enter. If we open the gates to every request, distraction, and invitation, sooner or later the fortress collapses. Saying no is the act of closing the gate when we recognize that a battle is not worth fighting, a matter not worth the cost. To say no is to keep the fortress strong, preserving energy for what truly aligns with our values and goals. One reason many hesitate to say no is fear of judgment. We worry others will see us as selfish, unpleasant, or unkind. Yet in truth, the strongest objections often come from those who benefited when we lacked boundaries. Those who genuinely respect us will understand and accept them. Epictetus urged us to distinguish between what lies within our control and what does not. The reactions of others are beyond our control, but where we choose to spend our energy is wholly ours to decide. Saying no is also a safeguard against depletion. If every commitment, every conversation, every task is a withdrawal of energy, then never refusing is like draining a bank account without ever replenishing it. The result is inevitable bankruptcy of the spirit. Fatigue, loss of drive, irritability, even illness. In contrast, when we learn to say no, we preserve reserves for what truly matters: healthy relationships, meaningful work, and lasting goals. Of course, refusal at first brings discomfort. The mind is accustomed to seeking approval, so breaking the habit naturally feels awkward. Yet, that feeling does not last. With steady practice, we realize the world does not collapse because of a refusal. Rather, we begin to build a balanced world for ourselves. To the Stoics, this is proof of self-mastery, a person not dragged by external pulls, but directing energy toward what is essential. Ultimately, the art of saying no is the art of choosing. It declares that we know what nourishes us and what destroys us, what deserves focus and what must be set aside. When we dare to say no to what drains us, we are saying yes to clarity, to peace, and to the life we truly seek. And this is the path to protect inner strength, keep the mind steady, and live in the Stoic spirit, intentional, awake, and free. 5. Let go of relationships that no longer serve. One source of deep exhaustion is clinging to relationships that no longer offer support or respect. We are often bound by memory, by habit, or by the faint hope that one day things will return to how they once were. But the truth is that the present reflects the reality of a relationship, not the past we recall, nor the imagined future we wish for. When a bond continually drains us, when respect has vanished, holding on only pulls us away from ourselves and delays the growth we need. The Stoics understood the value of detachment. Epictetus taught that pain does not come from loss, but from clinging to what lies beyond our control. We cannot force others to treat us rightly, nor command their affections, but we can choose our response, choose whether to hold or to release. By clinging to what has become toxic, we hand the reins of our life to another. Letting go, then, is not coldness, it is a return to self-governance. The difficulty of letting go often stems from emotional attachment. We cling to the beauty of past moments, to the joy once shared, or to imagined visions of better days. But to live by memory or illusion is like watering a dead tree, hoping it will bloom again. The Stoics insisted that living in the present is the only rightful stance. The present shows us who truly values us and who exists only to deplete us. Only by facing that truth with courage can we move forward. Letting go does not mean hatred or revenge. It is acceptance that some people belong only to a chapter of our story, and that chapter has closed. Instead of feeding resentment, we can keep the lessons the bond has left us. Every departure carries a message, whether it teaches patience, reminds us of our worth, or opens space for deeper connections. By honoring the lesson and releasing the weight, we reclaim freedom of mind. It is vital to remember that letting go is not merely physical distance, but also detachment of thought. If we still watch, still ache, still let memories rule us, we have not truly left. Letting go is ending the idealization of the past, ending the wait for apology, and ending the surrender of our worth to another. When that happens, emptiness may appear, but it is the emptiness that makes room for rebirth. We gain the energy to invest in ourselves and in relationships grounded in respect and mutual growth. Letting go is not weakness, but a clear sign of inner strength. It says, "I am worthy of respect, and I will not remain where that worth is denied." In Stoic spirit, this is one of the essential steps toward freedom. Release from dependence on others, so we may live authentically steadier, truer, and at peace. 6. Face and quiet, the inner voice of criticism. Within every mind exists a voice that judges harshly. This inner critic whispers that we are not good enough, that we will fail, that we should not try for fear of mistakes. It cloaks itself in the guise of caution, but its root is fear. Left unchecked, it becomes the greatest barrier to growth, shrinking us into the confines of self-imposed limits. The Stoics affirm that the mind is the one domain where we hold full command. Marcus Aurelius stressed that while we cannot control the world outside, we can govern our thoughts. This means the inner critic is not an enemy from without, but a voice within. If it arises in us, we also have the power to shape it. The problem is that many mistake its words for truth, treating them as their essence. But the appearance of a thought does not make it real. The Stoic approach is to learn to separate ourselves from the stream of thought. Picture each thought as a cloud drifting across the sky, while you are the sky itself, vast and unchanging. The cloud may be dark, but it will pass. You are not the cloud, and you need not identify with it. When we see thoughts as passing events rather than absolute truths, we reclaim power once surrendered. To soften the voice of criticism, we must change the language of the mind. Instead of repeating "I cannot," we shift to "I cannot yet, but I can learn." Instead of saying, "I failed," we can say, "I am still in training." This subtle change redirects thought from dead ends toward growth. Epictetus taught that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but the way we interpret them. This wisdom applies directly to how we speak to ourselves. It also helps to understand the origins of the inner critic. Many negative thoughts are simply echoes of the past, of old wounds or judgments we once received. When we see that they are only memories replayed, we stop mistaking them for eternal truths. Then, instead of an attacker, the critic becomes a stern teacher, pointing to areas of improvement without the power to destroy. The inner critic will never vanish completely, for it is part of human nature. But it can be quieted, adjusted, reduced to a faint voice among many others, no longer dictating life. When we rise despite its words, act despite its warnings, and persist despite its doubts, we prove to ourselves that we are stronger than hesitation. And that is the first step toward reclaiming freedom of mind. 7. Turn self-care into a habit. Self-care is often misunderstood as temporary indulgence, tied to surface-level actions that briefly mask fatigue. In truth, self-care is not about instant gratification, but about affirming self-worth through daily, repeated actions. When people treat self-care as part of disciplined living, they send the message that their body, mind, and spirit deserve to be protected, nourished, and respected. This is not a luxury, but a necessary foundation for sustaining life's endurance. The Stoics always valued moderation and self-mastery. Seneca emphasized that while we cannot control everything that happens, we can choose to live in harmony with what we have. In that spirit, self-care does not mean chasing every desire, but wisely using available resources to strengthen health, cultivate wisdom, and maintain balance in the soul. This turns self-care into a disciplined practice where even small decisions carry long-term meaning. The habit of self-care is built on small, consistent, sustaining actions. A nourishing meal, a full night's rest, a quiet moment to read or reflect, or a modest workout, all are investments in stability. Each time we prioritize them, we affirm that we are worthy of care. And when such acts become routine, they create a positive cycle. The more we care for ourselves, the more we feel our worth. The more we feel our worth, the more we persevere in self-care. Neglecting self-care, however, sends the opposite message that we are not worth prioritizing. This message sinks into the subconscious, eroding self-respect and making us more willing to accept neglect or disrespect from others. Conversely, when we honor ourselves through tangible action, we not only strengthen our inner core, but also shape the way others perceive and treat us. The Stoics believed every relationship with the world begins with a relationship with oneself, and the habit of self-care is the clearest proof of that self-respect. This habit must also include mindfulness in removing what is harmful. It is not true self-care if we continually allow negativity to flood our lives, maintain habits that weaken the body, or let the mind drown in meaningless noise. Self-care is both an act of nurturing and a decision of elimination. Only this combination creates the firm ground for lasting peace. Ultimately, making self-care a habit is a declaration that we choose to treat ourselves as our most important companion. It is not a reward for success, but a condition for moving forward. And when care is sustained, we build an invisible armor strong enough to endure storms, clear enough to live by values, and free enough never to trade ourselves for anything. 8. Learn to enjoy your own presence. Many fear being alone, believing that silence equals loneliness. They seek to fill the void with noise, endless activity, or constant company. Yet the inability to sit with oneself is a sign that we have not truly accepted or valued our own presence. When the mind has not learned peace in stillness, it forever searches outside to fill an inner emptiness that never feels complete. The Stoics regarded self-contentment in solitude as one of the highest expressions of freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote that nowhere brings greater peace than a soul at ease in its own company. The value of enjoying one's presence, then, is not in withdrawing from society, but in mastering the inner life, so that we are no longer dependent on busyness or external approval. When we honor our solitude, we do not cling. We step into relationships and actions with freedom. Learning to enjoy our own presence is not rejecting the world, but establishing an inner anchor. When we can sit in silence without seeking distraction, we begin to hear the voice within more clearly, discern true desires, and distinguish what is essential. In such quiet, the dust of life's noise falls away, leaving clear space for wisdom and clarity. The greatest benefit of enjoying one's presence is spiritual independence. When we no longer fear silence, we are no longer easily ruled by loneliness. We discover that the most precious companionship comes from within, and when we are whole inside, every external bond becomes addition, not salvation. This creates a positive circle. The more at peace we are with ourselves, the steadier we are in a changing world. The steadier we are, the more we cherish silence. Enjoying one's presence is the journey of becoming your own most reliable companion. It is the foundation of inner freedom and proof that happiness does not arise from the crowd but from mastery of the soul and the peace found within. 9. Free yourself from dependence on external validation. Human beings naturally long to be seen and valued, but when that longing turns into an indispensable need, it becomes a chain. Praise can lift the spirit, but a single criticism can drag the mind into despair. When our worth is placed in the hands of others, we lose inner stability and let emotions swing with the world's unstable tides. This is not freedom but slavery of the spirit, where joy and sorrow are dictated by the gaze and judgment of others. The Stoics understood this danger well and warned that human worth does not rest on the opinion of the crowd. Epictetus taught that if we wish to be free, the first step is to stop worrying about what others think. Their judgments are only the products of their experiences, biases, and emotions, and hold no authority to define our essence. When we grasp this, we see the truth. Praise or blame are but reflections on the surface, not mirrors of inner worth. Freedom from external validation does not mean rejecting all feedback or isolating from community. It means distinguishing between listening to learn and depending on others to feel valuable. When we receive feedback with reason instead of emotion, we can keep what is useful and discard what is empty. This choice preserves steadiness, freeing us from the turbulence of public opinion. True freedom comes when we establish our own measure. That measure is not the number of compliments, but whether we live by chosen principles, keep promises to ourselves, and stay faithful to core values. When we find satisfaction in living uprightly, acting consistently, and doing what is right, others' approval becomes secondary, no longer our lifeline. Such stability is enduring because it rises from within, not from the shifting outside world. Liberation from dependence on external recognition does not make one arrogant or detached. On the contrary, it allows us to enter relationships and work with freedom not to prove, but to share and contribute. When no longer bound by others' eyes, we live more authentically, more calmly, more firmly, because our worth has already been confirmed from within. 10. Practice forgiveness and gratitude toward yourself. People often carry heavy memories of past mistakes. Wrong decisions, missed opportunities, and poorly timed actions become mental burdens, trapping us in guilt and regret. But regret cannot change the past. It only keeps us standing at the threshold of growth. Forgiving oneself is not denial of mistakes, but facing them directly, extracting the lessons, and letting them become the foundation for progress. The Stoics emphasize that no one is exempt from error. What matters is not how we fell, but how we rose again. Forgiving oneself requires honesty and courage. It forces us to confront truth without deception, without excuses, yet also without endless self-punishment. Prolonged self-reproach turns mistakes into chains that halt our steps. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that we lose the present when we are consumed either by what has passed or by fear of what is to come. When we cling to regret, we lose the chance to live fully in the present and to shape a different future. Forgiveness, then, is the act of restoring to ourselves the power to live and to grow. Alongside forgiveness is the practice of gratitude toward oneself. Many easily express gratitude to others but forget their own being. Gratitude to oneself is not blind self-praise, but the acknowledgement of effort, of values, and of the resilience we have shown in life. Seneca affirmed that people are not poor because they have little, but because they endlessly crave more. When we fail to be grateful to ourselves, we stare only at our shortcomings and overlook the strengths already present. Gratitude to oneself is how we break the cycle of dissatisfaction and awaken a sense of inner sufficiency. Practicing gratitude toward oneself also means separating our worth from our mistakes. A poor decision does not define the whole of us, just as one withered branch does not deny the life of an entire forest. By learning to recognize our good qualities, however small, we nurture the belief that we are worthy of love and respect. That belief creates the strength to continue acting rightly and to live consistently with our core values. When forgiveness and gratitude become regular practices, the mind is freed from the weight of the past and the constant habit of comparison. We begin to see life with greater compassion, respecting ourselves, and facing events with calm. The Stoics called this inner freedom a state where we are no longer ruled by regret or endless craving, but can rest in the present with gratitude. This becomes the solid foundation for a meaningful life, where self-love is no longer a slogan but a truth embodied in every action. The most important truth I have realized is that the quiet repetition of small actions is what builds lasting strength. There is no shortcut to training the will, and no comfort can replace inner discipline. Those who long for peace yet avoid hardship are, in truth, moving against the nature of growth. For me, the essence lies in clearly discerning what is within my control and directing energy toward it, rather than being carried away by what is external. Mental steadiness, firmness in action, and the ability to uphold principle amid change are the true measures of strength. When people are patient enough to practice this spirit, they not only build a disciplined life, but also leave behind an example for others to follow. If you find these reflections valuable, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss what comes next. For the training of mind and spirit is a long journey, and each day offers a chance to take one more steady step. And finally, always remember, the choices you make today will shape the person you become tomorrow. See you in the next video.